Don't settle for bad socks. Get comfort and grip at an affordable price with Pure Grip Socks Pro. Choose from 18 different colors at puregripsocks.com.
We did one at the start of the year, but so much has changed since then. So with that in mind, here is the updated Ultimate Football Boot tier list of 2023. With all of these rankings being based on my own personal opinions, as well as first-hand experiences with every one of these boots. And for the sake of keeping this somewhat manageable and also useful for you, this tier list is comprised of only top-end as well as current models. No takedowns for now, maybe we can do that in a future video, and no limited edition releases. In other words, if you can't get them, then I'm not ranking them, at least not in this video. However, if you are interested in any of the boots in today's video, you can pick all of them up below their normal retail prices by way of some exclusive SR4U coupon codes by checking out the first link down below. And really quickly, before we get started, if you enjoy these types of videos, perhaps want to see more tier lists, don't forget to drop a like on this one and make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you haven't already, so you don't miss out on my reviews of all the latest football boots of 2023. The Adidas X Crazyfast.1, a football boot that might look very similar to the Speed Portal it replaces, but overall, in my opinion at least, is a gigantic improvement, despite utilizing the exact same base in the sole plate and stud pattern, which still provides a super responsive feel underfoot. However, the upper has been made a little bit thinner and significantly more pliable, making this boot feel a lot less stiff on your feet, and in general, less bulky. They also made modifications to the shape as well as the volume, which in turn results in a much more comfortable and overall better fitting pair of football boots in a package that is nice and lightweight. For the price, I don't think you can go wrong, and if you're a fan of what Adidas has been doing over the last several years with the X series, this is one of the better interpretations of that concept. The Crazyfast.1 with laces is A tier. The Nike Premier 3 at $110 is a great value for money proposition, effectively less than half the price of most of the boots that I'll be sharing in this video. You really can't go wrong with the Premier 3 if you're after a very simple pair of football boots with a premium feel in the kangaroo leather upper that it provides. The central lacing system and traditional U-throat construction makes these just super comfortable straight out of the box, and the sole plate and stud pattern, while nothing special, certainly gets the job done. Certainly if you want something that is more on the traditional side in terms of the traction provided, as well as a more flexible feel to the sole plate. Is it the best that you can get in this particular category? Not necessarily, but overall a super solid package. The Premier 3 is B tier. The new Balance Tekela V4 Pro Low effectively came out of nowhere, and unlike the original Tekela V4, which featured a laceless construction and a mid-cut design, this of course is low-cut at the back and introduces a lacing system, which in turn results in a better fitting and overall more comfortable pair of football boots on what was already a really solid package in the laceless variant. However, because of the added lockdown provided by the lacing system and simply just giving the boot adjustability, the end result is honestly one of the best football boots on the market that everyone is completely ignoring. It also features one of the most unique sole plates and stud patterns on the market, with these studs that go right to the edge. I think something that is awesome for somebody that regularly slips and just feels like they're always pushing off on the extreme edges of the sole plate. It's a lightweight package. They're less expensive at $215 than most football boots on the market, certainly in the top end category, and overall just provide a super premium feel with this soft knitted upper. Overall, they're amazing football boots if you're looking for that sock-like sensation, which is why the Tekela V4 Pro Low is S tier. The Puma Ultra Ultimate 2023 introduces some very minor changes to the original Ultra Ultimate that, as you'd expect, offer some very minor differences in terms of the experience of actually playing in the football boots. As an overall package, they are very well rounded in that they're lightweight, they're thin, they're responsive, and provide super aggressive traction. However, in all of those categories, there are other speed boots that simply do it better. At $220, they're definitely more affordable than some of the more popular options from, say, Nike or Adidas, but I can't say that I think that these are anywhere near as good overall. Previously, I ranked the Ultra Ultimate as a B tier football boot, but considering how many amazing options are now currently available, it drops to C tier. The Nike Phantom GX Elite is one of the most popular boots on the market right now, and for good reason. The grip provided by the grip knit Flyknit based upper is just incredible, and of course you don't lose out on the softness and flexibility that we've come to expect from the sock-like material that is Flyknit. It's very comfortable, it offers a great sole plate and stud pattern, and the option of low cut with exposed laces or mid cut with a lace cover is something that I think a lot of people quite like. No real difference in performance, it's totally a matter of personal preference, but overall, it's just one of the most well-rounded football boots on the market and super unique because of the upper. I ranked these S tier at the start of the year, and I still think they are S tier football boots. The Adidas Predator Accuracy Plus is the laceless option in the current Predator lineup, and one of very few laceless football boots that I think actually takes advantage of the real estate cleared up by the fact that this does not have a lacing system, with these rubber elements running all the way up through the middle of the foot, something that is super noticeable when controlling the ball, juggling, and particularly when shooting. Having that extra grip is phenomenal, and while it's very much a personal preference thing, this definitely stands out as being super unique, and I would argue the best overall laceless football boot on the market, pending that you want that additional grip. The lockdown and overall fit is quite nice, all things considered, and as an overall package, there's very little to complain about. The Predator Accuracy Plus, in my opinion, is A tier. The Umbro Velocita Elixir Pro is a passable pair of football boots, but also one that I think is incredibly questionable, starting with the retail price of $275 that effectively puts these in the range of just about every other speed boot on the market, which then makes you question why on earth would you be buying the Umbro Velocita if you had that kind of a budget. The upper is nice, but definitely not a standout in today's market. The sole plate and stud pattern, I think, is way behind what you're going to find from other brands. As an overall package, the boots are super lightweight, but considering the comfort on offer being subpar at best, and like I said, the overall package not necessarily being the greatest, I'm just not sure why anyone would even consider these at such a high price tag. The Elixir Pro, in my opinion, is D tier. The Adidas Copa Pure Point 1, I think, is one of those football boots that does not get the respect that it deserves, mainly based on the fact that it utilizes a calfskin leather upper rather than a kangaroo leather upper. And that's something that I think a lot of people just don't understand, where you don't necessarily need kangaroo leather to have a really soft and premium feel from the material. And what you're getting here on the Copa Pure Point 1, while there isn't as much leather as I would personally like to see on this football boot, is some of the softest that you're going to find out of anything currently on the market. Also, with the Tiempo and the Puma King series both transitioning into full synthetics, if you're talking about a modern leather football boot, this is now one of your only options, but a good one at that. The transition from leather to synthetic is remarkably seamless, and in general, the boots just fit extremely well. I appreciate the traditional U-throat construction, the low-cut design is nice, and while the sole plate and stud pattern isn't necessarily my favorite, taken from the now discontinued Adidas Nemesis series, as an overall package, especially considering the price tag of $230, it's very well rounded if you just want a simple pair of thin leather football boots. The Copa Pure Point 1 is A tier. The Made in Japan Mizuno Alpha, a pair of football boots from Mizuno that you wouldn't necessarily expect, in that they're definitely a brand that kind of runs on the model of refinement, where they introduce something that everybody likes and then they just continually tweak it to make it just a little bit better whenever they release a new variation. The Alpha, however, is something all new, and perhaps most importantly for a Mizuno product, full synthetic. However, in the speed category, these are incredibly comfortable. They fit so well. The U-throat construction and deep central lacing system makes these such an amazing fitting football boot that if you're wanting something that is super lightweight while providing that barefoot touch, I don't think there are many options out there that are going to feel as comfortable as these do. The sole plate and stud pattern is also top notch. However, the price tag is quite steep at $320 for the Made in Japan variation. However, with that said, the Elite and even the Pro models that sit below it for $200 and $160 respectively are also very, very good. The MIJ version might be considered the best, but not by a lot, Regardless of which version of the Alpha you go for, however, they're really solid football boots. The Made in Japan variation, however, is S tier. The Skechers SKX001, also known as the Harry Kane boots, is not only an unexpected football boot to drop this year, but also a fairly controversial one in that, kind of like what you would expect from the Skechers brand, if you're familiar with what they do in the world of sneakers, they took some designers from Nike, had them design a football boot, and would you know it, they are very, very similar to the concept that is now discontinued from Nike, but that we did see from the Phantom GT with a knitted upper, micro texturing on the surface, and a sole plate and stud pattern that very clearly takes some inspiration from Nike's GT series. With that in mind, the final product is actually very good, and in a lot of ways, I actually like these a lot more than what the Nike Phantom GT ever had on offer. I know they're expensive for a pair of football boots from a brand that is kind of known as a budget brand, but if you don't factor in the price of the boots, the overall performance and general feel of them is as good as just about any top-end model on the market. For a brand that is new to high-end football boots, I actually think Skechers have done a really good job with these, and considering that the Phantom GT is no longer a thing, I don't take that much of an issue with them having something that is similar to what is technically no longer available. Nonetheless, the SKX001 is A tier. The iconic Adidas Copa Mundial, we don't really need to talk about it. In any football boot tier list, it should be S tier, and it remains S tier on this tier list as well. The Puma Future Ultimate is what can only be described as a very well-rounded pair of football boots, and while they might not have some of the more unique technologies that we have seen in the Puma Future series over the years, what they do have here as an overall package is soft, comfortable, fits great, and overall as light as you would want a modern day top-end model football boot to be. If you're looking for that kind of knitted, soft, sock-like sensation on feet, in a package and general shape that just seems to work well for most foot types, with a sole plate and stud pattern that overall is very solid, trending on kind of the aggressive speed boot side of things at a price tag that is less expensive than, say, some of the more popular alternatives, then I think you're really going to enjoy your experience with the Puma Future Ultimate. It is an A tier football boot. The New Balance 442 version 2 Pro is, in my opinion, the best bang for your buck if you're after something with a leather upper. At $130, you're getting a kangaroo leather forefoot, a nice deep central lacing system with a more traditional U-throat construction, the option of regular or wide fit, along with a sole plate and stud pattern that feels like it should be on a $200+ football boot. Not to mention, they're incredibly lightweight, lighter than some of the most popular top-end speed boots currently on the market. And again, at half the price of what you're going to pay for some top-end models, you absolutely cannot go wrong. The New Balance 442 version 2 Pro is easily A tier. The Under Armour clone Magnetico Elite 3.0 is certainly a very unique pair of football boots, and that's something that I've always applauded Under Armour for, in that they don't just take what other brands are doing and having success with and copy it, they always try to do their own thing. And this is a perfect example of trying to do too many things that are new all at once and it not having a very cohesive feel to it. The risk of this kind of stretchy upper and a super low profile toe box, in my opinion, just doesn't feel the greatest. The boots as a whole have a little bit of a weird shape. I don't find them particularly comfortable. I think they're a lot heavier and clunkier than they need to be, really just being one of the heaviest top-end models currently on the market. And for $250, I just don't think there's much about it that really stands out from the crowd in a positive way. They're not bad football boots. They're definitely passable. I think there's going to be some people that buy these and really, really like them. But in comparison to all the other options you could buy for the same amount of money or less, I don't think they're all that great. This is a D tier football boot. The Nike Mercurial series has dominated the speed category for a very long time now, and whether it's the Vapor 15 Elite or the Superfly 9 Elite, effectively the same boot with or without a collar, you simply cannot go wrong if you're looking for that high-tech speed boot experience. The upper wraps your foot in that signature super tight Mercurial way while also maintaining a surprising amount of overall comfort. The touch on the ball is raw, giving you that barefoot sensation. The boots are incredibly responsive, having the perfect amount of structure. The stud pattern is aggressive, and the air zoom unit that you get in the forefoot is incredibly unique in terms of giving you that little bit of underfoot cushion that you simply will not find from any other product on the market. They were S tier at the start of the year, and they remain S tier. The Nike Phantom Luna kind of came out of nowhere, and while I understand what they were trying to do with this football boot, as an overall package and as a secondary Nike Phantom option, there's just very little about the Luna that I think is better at all compared to the GX. You're getting a Nike grip upper, which does have that little bit of a grippy texture, particularly on the raised kind of ridge texturing that you have on certain parts of the upper itself. However, the grip provided is nowhere near as good or as unique as what you'll find from the GX. The overall shaping of the boot is pretty much the same, but the stiffer feel to the upper, in my opinion, is nowhere near as comfortable. And the sole plate and stud pattern, while very different, does feel quite bulky. I don't think performs any better, and it ups the overall weight of the product, making this by far the heaviest top-end model on offer from Nike right now. For $275, I think there's going to be plenty of people that buy them and enjoy them, but I'm just not sure why you would want the Luna over the GX, given that it pretty much has all the same features that have more or less just been dumbed down. For me, this is a pair of football boots that is C tier. The Adidas Predator Accuracy Point 1 is an amazing pair of football boots. It's available as either a low or as a mid-cut variation for no price difference at all, which I really appreciate. Personally, I find the mid-cut model to just fit a little bit better through the heel, but again, your mileage may vary when it comes to that sort of thing, depending on the specific shape of your feet. But for those that were fans of the Power Boot series, like myself, you'll really appreciate the hybrid touch upper and the rubber striking elements, giving you not necessarily a bulky feel, but certainly a more substantial feel than what you're going to find from most of the super thin football boots that are now available in 2023. They're also very comfortable. They're not overly weighted. I think the sole plate and stud pattern feels really solid underfoot. And as an overall package, they're just super, super unique. For me, this is easily an S tier football boot, simply based on the fact that there is absolutely nothing else like them. The New Balance Furon V7 Pro, simply put, is underrated. Not only are they one of the lightest football boots currently on the market, but the knit-based upper with the unique off-centered lacing system makes this one of the standout options in the speed category when it comes to overall feel as well as touch. Having this entire area of the foot free of any laces while still providing the lockdown and general quality of fit that you're getting because of an actual lacing system is just really remarkable and something that I think has gone super underappreciated. They're also available in regular as well as wide fit, which is awesome to see. And the sole plate and stud pattern is also top notch, especially if you're looking for super aggressive traction with these fairly long bladed chevron style studs. For $215, they're also less expensive than a lot of the more popular speed boot options, and overall, just very well rounded. The New Balance Furon V7 Pro is A tier. The made in Japan Mizuno Morelia Neo 4 Beta, a pair of football boots that at a quick glance you might just suspect were the Neo 3, but in fact this is the Neo 4. The easiest way to tell definitely being the new pattern or design that you have in the external heel counter. Nonetheless, the changes are not overly significant. We're kind of true to the Mizuno way. Everything that they've changed is more or less down to small refinements rather than kind of major changes of direction. And the end result is a pair of football boots that is just really, really difficult to complain about. Everything about it fits great, is incredibly comfortable. They're very unique from the perspective that it's a super lightweight speed boot, but you're getting kangaroo leather in the forefoot and also a conical stud pattern, but they still feel responsive, they still feel super lightweight, and the comfort, like I said, in the speed category is just a major standout. They're obviously very expensive at that $300+ price point. However, the Elite model is arguably just as good when you're talking about objective performance, despite not necessarily having the same kind of incredible made in Japan quality, but for $200, I don't think you're going to be upset. The Neo 4 Beta, however, especially the made in Japan model, is very easily an S tier football boot. The Umbro Tocco 3 Pro might look like a simple pair of football boots that couldn't possibly be that bad, and I don't necessarily think they are that bad, but I also think they're very far from being good. Also, when you factor in the $300 retail price of this football boot, the expectations should be pretty high. Unfortunately, they don't deliver. While you are getting a relatively soft feeling upper, definitely not what I would expect for $300, however, it's lined with this Dyneema fabric that Umbro claims is going to improve the overall performance of the football boot in a multitude of ways. However, the end result is that it takes away from the softness of the leather in terms of what you can feel when the boots are on feet, and it makes the touch feel borderline numb. There's just not a lot of feedback on the ball, and that is not what you want for $300. The sole plate and stud pattern is also pretty questionable, with some quality control issues in terms of the studs kind of having this warped shape to them. They should be straight up and down, not angled like that. And yes, the left and right football boot are different in terms of the angle of the studs. And in general, there's just nothing about this football boot that stands out from the crowd in any positive way. For $300, I think you're crazy if you buy these. If you can find them deeply discounted, maybe give them a go. But as they are right now, the Tocco 3 Pro, in my opinion, is F tier. The Adidas X Crazyfast.1 Laceless is, in my opinion, one of the better laceless speed boots Adidas has ever put out, and certainly an improvement over the Speed Portal Plus that these boots replace. The fit with the laceless system is actually really good. I think the refinements to the shape for this new Crazyfast generation have definitely been for the better, and the lockdown and general responsiveness, considering that you don't have a lacing system to hold your foot in place, does feel pretty good. Could it be better? Absolutely, but if you're after more lockdown and more responsiveness, just go for the variation with laces. However, if you like the laceless thing, I think there's a lot to like about these. I'd make the argument that it is the best laceless speed boot on the market by quite a long shot, which is why this is A tier. The new Balance Tekela V4 Pro Laceless is another phenomenal pair of football boots that a lot of people really don't consider, and I'm not sure why, especially because these retail for $215, which is significantly less expensive than the Adidas laceless options at full price. What you get with this boot is a full knitted upper, a nice laceless system that provides a really good amount of tension. I love the tight fit that you have to the mid-cut collar, and something that is super unique to New Balance, and I think very important for a laceless design in particular, the option of regular as well as wide fit. And when you have a pair of football boots that lack adjustability, having that option of a different predetermined width could be the biggest difference in the world in terms of the quality of the fit, comfort, and experience. The sole plate and stud pattern is also fantastic and super unique. And as an overall package, there's very little to criticize about these boots, especially for the price. The New Balance Tekela V4 Pro is A tier. The Adidas Copa Pure Plus is one of those football boots that has surprisingly kind of flown under the radar, and I think it's just because the hype around a laceless Copa has kind of died down since it was originally introduced with the Copa 18 Plus. However, what you get as an overall package here is as good as any laceless Copa has ever been. The upper is incredibly soft despite not being kangaroo leather, and the fusion skin kind of flow through the midfoot, transitioning into this elasticated prime knit, just feels incredibly comfortable. Of course, the lockdown is that of a laceless football boot in that it could definitely be better if these had laces, but the feeling of wearing what effectively feels like a leather pair of socks is something that is super unique to the Copa Pure Plus. Again, the Nemesis sole plate and stud pattern isn't necessarily my favorite, but it gets the job done. And again, if you just want that laceless experience that's going to be as soft as possible on your feet, this is the one that you should go for. The Pure Plus is A tier. The Puma King Ultimate is once again Puma trying to transition the King line away from natural leather and into synthetic, and while the K-Better material they use on these football boots does feel pretty good both on feet as well as on the ball, to suggest that it feels anything like soft kangaroo leather I think is a bit of a stretch. The overall shaping and general silhouette of the football boot definitely feels more like something that you'd expect in the speed category, and that it's a very tight wrap. And also the recent introduction of the Rudigon limited edition variant actually introduces a variation of the synthetic material that feels significantly more leather-like, which really makes me question why they don't all have that material. The sole plate and stud pattern is solid, but very traditional and relatively safe, and at $220, they're definitely not overly expensive. However, when you consider what other options are now available in the synthetic leather category, I don't necessarily think they're a top option. Not bad football boots, but certainly not the best that you can get. I previously ranked these as A tier. I think they now drop to B tier. The Skechers Razor is another pair of football boots that seemingly came out of nowhere. Not only did Skechers release one high-end football boot, but a second, with the Razor definitely being more speed-focused, and again, somewhat controversially, although I think this is more so down to the colorway itself, it seems like it has some elements that are definitely similar to the 2014 Nike Mercurial Vapor 10. However, considering that those came out 9 years ago, I think it's a stretch to call them a direct copy, because in reality, they're not. Nonetheless, the thin synthetic that you get through the forefoot is incredible in terms of comfort and feels awesome on the ball. Definitely similar to something like the Vapor 10, but with a little bit more padding, kind of reminiscent of the hybrid touch of the 2014 F50 Adizero. Nonetheless, super positive. One of the most comfortable speed boots on the market, without question. They're super lightweight, offer really aggressive traction, and at 220 euros, only available in Europe as of right now, they're actually less expensive than, again, some of the more popular options. I understand that Skechers does not have the appeal of some of the other brands right now, but I will say, pound for pound, objectively, these are some of the best speed boots on the market. The Skechers Razor is A tier. The Adidas X Crazyfast.1 is effectively the technology that was introduced years ago on the 99-gram Adizero concept boots brought to kind of a mainstream model. And while they are expensive at $300, they are legitimately crazy fast and crazy light. By far the lightest model on the market right now by about 20 grams, which might not seem like a lot, but when you take an already lightweight football boot and subtract 20 grams from it, the end result is something that feels pretty much weightless. This being the lightest thing from Adidas since the early days of the F50 Adizero. The U-throat construction and central lacing system, again, is kind of a nod back to the F50 days, with the overall wrap around your foot and general comfort just being top-notch and so familiar. The sole plate and stud pattern does carry over from Speed Portal, but definitely doesn't feel out of place with the upper that they have here. And in terms of just giving you a very unique experience compared to any other option on the market right now, there's very little that you can complain about. The price is high, but the boots are definitely S tier. The made in Japan Mizuno Morelia 2 is not an exciting pair of football boots for the vast majority. However, if you're a fan of premium kangaroo leather and simply the best build quality that money can buy, this is as good as it gets. Think of it as a modern take on the Copa Mundial, but even better quality, with honestly the finest kangaroo leather you are going to find on any football boot currently available. The comfort is unbelievable. I find this to be the most comfortable boot on the market, and while the sole plate and stud pattern might look old school and definitely offers some old school performance with the shaping of the studs, it utilizes modern plastics, making the overall weight of these boots as light as some of the most popular top-end speed boots on the market, which is totally unexpected. Again, very expensive, but you get what you pay for. Easily S tier. The Nike Tiempo Legend 10 Elite is one of the most controversial Nike football boots in quite a few years, in that it strips the Tiempo of its kangaroo leather upper in favor of Fly Touch Plus, an entirely synthetic material. And while the synthetic that they've introduced does feel very leather-like in so many ways, and I think even in some cases, it might even fool people into thinking that it is actual leather. If you've ever tried any of the most premium kangaroo leather football boots, even from Tiempos of past years, I think it's hard to say that these truly replace natural kangaroo leather. I think the experience is positive, but I don't think that if you're a fan of leather football boots that you should transition into a synthetic Tiempo Legend 10. What this for me is more so a replacement of the Nike CTR 360 series, or more so a continuation, you might say, of the Kangalite material that we saw on those football boots. But is it a true Tiempo? I guess that's a matter of opinion. The sole plate and stud pattern is also pretty much a direct carryover with some gimmicky elements that you ultimately don't feel, but it's still that classic Tiempo stud pattern. The boots are also super lightweight and still maintain the $230 price tag, making them the least expensive of the top end options on offer from Nike. They're overall very solid football boots, but definitely not my favorite Tiempos they've ever put out. The Legend 10 Elite is A tier.